Linear time arises in lower densities because consciousness enters a field where vibration slows enough for events to separate into distinct frames of experience. In these dense realms, the energetic fabric is thick, layered, and governed by entropy, so awareness cannot hold multiple timelines or perspectives simultaneously. Instead, it processes reality in a single, narrow beam, one moment, then the next, then the next. This sequential processing creates the feeling of time moving forward, even though time itself is not moving. Only our perception is. The body-brain system reinforces this by storing memory in a backward direction and projecting imagination forward, giving us the sense of a past behind us and a future ahead of us. The emotional body adds weight to this illusion by attaching meaning, anticipation, and consequence to each moment, making the sequence feel real, personal, and unfolding. The linearity is further shaped by the structure of physical matter. Atoms, molecules, and biological systems rely on stable, predictable cause and effect relationships to function. This stability requires a temporal ordering, a before and after, so the physical world can maintain coherence. In higher densities, where matter becomes more fluid and less bound by entropy, this ordering is no longer necessary. Consciousness can hold multiple states at once, access parallel timelines, and perceive events from outside the sequence. But in lower densities, the narrowing of perception, the slowing of vibration, the mechanics of memory, and the structure of physicality all combine to create the sensation of a linear timeline. This is why linear time feels so real here. It is the perceptual interface that allows individuated consciousness to navigate density, learn through contrast, and evolve through choice. It is not a universal truth, but a temporary lens, a training mechanism that dissolves as consciousness rises into higher, more coherent realms where time becomes fluid, simultaneous, and responsive to awareness rather than containing it. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the concept of time being an illusion and everything existing at once, which I'm sure you've heard. And if you're anything like me, it is one of the most difficult concepts to try and wrap our heads around. Now, the best way of explaining it is, imagine there is a movie. You're going to the theatre. You don't know what the movie's about, but you know the full movie has been shot. And you're sitting there and you're seeing it unfold in front of you because you are consciously focused on the screen. So now expand that concept out to every single possible, probable outcome of anything is in the ether. Everything is already in existence, but until you look at it and your consciousness is bringing it into your awareness, you feel like it's not there yet. So everything is already available, but it is the consciousness focused on something in this particular realm that then pulls it into our sense perceptions, our experience. So when you look at it like that, it's sort of, it's a concept that's very, very vast for us to understand, but that is how reality is. Everything is existing as a potential to come into reality or come into manifestation. So we, in our incarnation with our sense perceptions, can then experience what we've actually brought in. Now, what is it that brings it into us? It's not our physical mind, it's our subconscious mind. It's the subconscious that is collapsing the possible potential to come into our physical senses, our awareness. So everything does exist at once. It's just we are experiencing it frame by frame by frame. There is this thing called entropy that makes us feel as though well, it doesn't make us feel. That is how we are experiencing our reality, frame by frame. But all the frames are already there. It's just where we put our focus is where we are going to draw that into our sense perceptions, our reality. Now, I mentioned before, it's not the physical mind that does this, it's the belief structure, it's the subconscious mind that is the powerful driver of this. And the subconscious mind has obviously all of the conditioned experiences that we've had so far in this incarnation, but it also pulls in belief systems from other past lives, what we perceive as past lives that are really still happening right now. It's just we are focused in on this particular space and this particular time to experience things as they unfold, frame by frame by frame by frame. So that is the easiest way that I can explain how everything exists simultaneously. And it's interesting because when we think about that, it is not just the frames going forward, it's also the frames going backwards. So our past, so when we think about something that's happened in the past, we are connecting with the frame that we've already realized in the past. It's a memory. Again, we're now stepping back into our frames, but all the other potential frames, the path that we didn't take, are also available. And so that then gives us the opportunity to go back and change our past. So our subconscious then will change the future frames that we will look at. Now that is getting really sort of a little bit more complicated, but it is actually how consciousness works. That's how powerful consciousness is. So when we are in an incarnation and we hear a lot about ancestral trauma that we're trying to resolve, experience and push it through and let go of that energy, that's sort of part and parcel of that. So ancestral trauma is something that we can go back, have a completely different sort of consciousness mindset around it and actually change that. And again, that is all about raising our ancestral vibration, so our soul clusters and our soul families and our multi-dimensional selves can continue to evolve. Everything is here and right now for us to access, but it all depends on where our consciousness is focused in on. That's the key. We're either projecting forward with our imagination or we're going back into our past with our memories, but we can actually select different outcomes for ourselves based on how we want to perceive the past and how we want to utilize our imagination, because everything is here now. Now, I did mention before that this is part and parcel of this experience here, because we are existing in a very, very low frequential or low energetic vibrational realm. Not all densities and realms are this slow. So the atoms and the molecules, to bring things into physicality or into our sense perceptions, take some frames. I'll use the word frames now instead of time. So there are a few frames to go through before we have manifested that collapsed probability into our reality. Okay, let's keep going. and explore the concept of entropy. Entropy is part and parcel of one of the universal laws that exist, and it is a significant portion as to why we see things in a linear state. So I want to explain what entropy actually is so you can sort of grasp that concept a little bit more. Let us now look at how science and metaphysics supports the idea of everything existing simultaneously, and how consciousness is the determinator of the manifestation of possibilities coming into physical and non-physical reality. Science sees the quantum world as a shimmering wave of probabilities, where every potential state is already present. Metaphysics describes Source as an infinite field holding all timelines, all outcomes, all expressions at once. Together they remind us, reality begins as pure possibility. Science shows that particles don't sit in one place. They exist in multiple states simultaneously until something interacts with them. Metaphysics mirrors this with the idea that consciousness is multidimensional, with many versions of self and many realities co-present. Both point to a universe that is fundamentally simultaneous. Science reveals that when we observe a quantum system, the act of observing changes it. The wave collapses into one clear outcome. Metaphysics teaches that when consciousness focuses, it chooses a timeline, a version of reality, a path from the infinite. Both agree that attention is creative. Science describes collapse as an instantaneous shift from many to one. Metaphysics describes manifestation as consciousness, selecting a single expression from the field. Both show that reality is not fixed. It's chosen moment by moment. Science explains that once a particle collapses, the environment locks that choice into place. Metaphysics says that once consciousness chooses, resonance and belief stabilize the timeline. Both reveal that stability is the result of selection, not the cause. Science. All states exist in the wave function until collapse. Metaphysics. All realities exist within Source, and we navigate them through awareness. Both. The universe is a simultaneous field. Experience is a focused slice of it. Science shows that the observer cannot be separated from the observed. Metaphysics says consciousness is the field that births the universe. Both point to the same truth. Consciousness is not inside reality. Reality arises within consciousness. Entropy is the universal tendency for energy to slowly spread out, soften, and lose its tight structure. In the higher realms, this spreading doesn't matter because everything is fluid, coherent, and easily reorganized by consciousness. But in third density, where vibration slows and matter becomes thick, entropy becomes the quiet background force that makes everything feel like it's moving in one direction. A simple way to feel it. If you drop a handful of glitter on the floor, it scatters everywhere. But it never spontaneously gathers itself back into your hand. That one-way movement from order to disorder is what your brain interprets as time moving forward. Another analogy. Imagine reality is a cosmic slideshow. In higher densities, you can see all the slides at once. In third density, entropy slows the projector so much that you only see one slide at a time. And because the slides never go backwards, it feels like you're moving through a story. Entropy is the reason. Candles burn down but never unburn. Ice melts but never unmelts. Memories accumulate behind you but never ahead of you. Your mind takes this irreversible drift and turns it into a timeline. not because time is actually linear, but because your perception is being filtered through a density where entropy creates a one-way flow of change. Without entropy, third density would feel completely different. Events wouldn't have a before and after. Cause and effect wouldn't anchor experience. The physical world wouldn't hold its structure. The brain wouldn't build memory in a sequence. Consciousness wouldn't experience growth step by step. It would be like trying to learn a story when all the pages are shown at once. Beautiful, but impossible to navigate. Entropy slows the field just enough for consciousness to experience life as a journey, a sequence, a becoming. It gives us the gift of progression, the feeling of moving through lessons, the sense of unfolding. And when we rise out of third density, entropy loosens its grip, the slideshow speeds up, and time reveals itself as what it truly is, a vast simultaneous landscape that we were only viewing through a narrow keyhole. The etheric planes are the subtle scaffolding that makes our human experience possible. They sit between the physical body and the higher dimensional aspects of the soul, acting as the energetic bridge that allows consciousness to inhabit matter. Everything we feel, sense, heal, remember, and transform passes through the etheric field first. It is the layer where life force flows, where emotional patterns imprint, where ancestral memory is stored, and where the higher self communicates with the human self through intuition, imagery, sensation, and subtle knowing. You can think of the etheric planes as the operating system behind the physical body, invisible to the eye but essential for every function of embodiment. The etheric field holds the blueprint of the body, the chakra system, the meridians, and the emotional mental patterns we carry into this lifetime. When we experience trauma, joy, inspiration, or awakening, the first shift happens in the etheric layer before it becomes physical or psychological. This is why healing, activation, and spiritual growth always begin in the subtle body. The etheric planes reorganize themselves, and the physical experience follows. They also act as the interface between timelines, allowing us to access past lives, ancestral memory, and parallel versions of ourselves, because all of these imprints exist as vibrational patterns within the etheric field. When we meditate, dream, channel, or enter altered states, we are stepping out of the dense physical lens and into the etheric layers where time is fluid, communication is direct, and the higher self can guide us without distortion. In daily life, the etheric planes are constantly shaping our intuition, our emotional responses, our sense of vitality, and our connection to others. They are the reason we feel someone's energy before they speak, the reason we sense truth or misalignment instantly, and the reason healing can occur without physical contact. The etheric field is the living bridge that allows the multidimensional soul to express itself through a human body, making our earthly experience not just biological, but profoundly energetic, interconnected, and guided from beyond the physical layer. The etheric planes express themselves through 4 primary energetic bodies, each one a subtle layer of consciousness that interfaces with the physical form. Together they create the multi-dimensional architecture that allows the soul to experience life through a human lens. These bodies are not separate structures, but interwoven frequency bands, each holding a different aspect of our blueprint: memory, emotion, and higher guidance. As we move through life, every thought, feeling, and experience ripples through these layers before it becomes physical, which is why the etheric bodies are the true origin point of healing, intuition,